Hello and most welcome. Today, we will discuss spirituality, mental health, and self improvement with our guest, Barbara. Barbara Ann Briggs is a poet, podcaster, and the author of two books. She is also a certified consciousness advisor. She has over 20 years' experience as a freelancer journalist and has had numerous articles and essays published in both print and online media. A practitioner and teacher of Transcendental Meditation for over 30 years. Let's welcome Barbara to the show. Barbara, tell us, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm very well. Most happy to accept your invitation, and I'm most happy to speak to you today.
Thank you so much. So, Barbara, first I wanted to ask you, tell us a little about yourself and your life story.
Well, I started meditating many years ago. I had just finished my philosophy degree at New York University, and I was very much interested in spirituality. So I after my degree, I wanted to leave America because I felt that I would be happier in Europe because there were a lot of social problems in America as they exist today. They were also existed several decades ago. And I felt I didn't feel like the values that were held by the mainstream media in America were my values. I felt that I didn't really believe in those divisions, those social labeling and the classification of people based on their outward appearance. So I felt that I wanted to try a different culture. My mother's actually European, my father's American, and I
Mhm,
decided to try going to Europe. So when
mhm,
I finished my degree, I was going to study philosophy of art in England, but they didn't have the subject I wanted. So I auditioned for a dancing school in London, and I was accepted as a dancing student. So I did go to England after my degree, after teaching in New York for 1 year. I taught at a progressive school for high school dropouts in New York City for 1 year after my graduation, and then I went to London to study dance. And during that time, I was encouraged to learn transcendental meditation by one of my music teachers in the dancing school. So I did go to a lecture on transcendental meditation, and I found that it had quite an extensive degree of scientific research backing up the findings about this meditation. It showed that it increased mind-body coordination, it increased reaction time, it increased synchrony in the two different hemispheres of the brain. It also strengthened the immune system and many other factors. These factors influenced my decision, and I did learn transcendental meditation a few months after I moved to England. And I found that it was a very, very, very wonderful practice. It allowed me to go deeper into myself. It was not only a practice for the physiological benefits, but it was also had a profound effect on one's consciousness, and it really enabled me to fulfill the things that I wanted to do in my life much more easily with less effort. I found that as they describe the technique, that when you experience deeper levels of the mind, you become more and more in tune with the laws of nature which govern the universe. And when one has the experience of pure consciousness, this is the home of all the laws of nature. And by coming more and more in tune with the deepest level of one's own being, one begins to live life more in harmony with the total potential of natural law. What I mean by this is that one doesn't violate the laws of nature, one lives in harmony with nature, and because of that, one's desires are fulfilled much more easily. Because actually, the only reason people suffer is because they violate the laws of nature. They do things that cause harm to themselves or the environment, and because of that, they experience suffering and they experience some obstacles to the fulfillment of their desires. So when I started meditation, I felt immense benefit from it. And after 1 year, I decided to go to Switzerland, where the founder of the meditation technique was residing. And I decided to become a teacher of transcendental meditation. The founder of transcendental meditation is on the picture of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is on my wall behind me. This is the founder of the Transcendental Meditation technique. I became a teacher of Transcendental Meditation. And then I met Mahashi several times. I was able to speak to him, ask him questions, and I was very profoundly moved by the depth of the answers that he gave. So I embarked on the spiritual path. I became a teacher of meditation, and since then I lived in England for about 8 or 9 years. I wrote a book on Mahashi's Vedic science, which is available on Amazon, The Contribution of Mahashi's Vedic Science to Complete Fulfillment in Life. And then I went to India in 2001. I moved to India. I had been to India several times, and I felt it was more in tune with my nature. And I felt more at home in India than any other country that I've lived in. And I decided to make it my home, and it was supported quite a bit. I did live in India a very long time. I'm still in India now. And I've written another book, Pilgrimage on the Path of Love. It's it's a book that it's about the story of a woman who travels alone to India, and after many challenging and soul-stirring experiences, she emerges triumphant with a much deeper understanding of the meaning of life and the purpose of true love. And this is the cover of the book, Pilgrimage on the Path of Love. It's available on Amazon, and it's available in Barnes and Noble. So basically, I've devoted my life to writing. I've had more than 40 articles published, and I have a YouTube channel called Living Wisdom, and I have a podcast called Essence of Life, and I'm working on my third book right now. So basically, that's my life in a nutshell.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for sharing us your life story and your life, and you did a lot, yeah, and it is a great service to others. And the first question in my mind is, what's the difference between the transcendental meditation with the other kind of the meditation that there are, like dynamic meditation and so many more?
Well, I can only speak about transcendental meditation. I've not practiced any other form of meditation.
Hmm.
The difference basically is that there's no effort involved in the transcendental meditation technique. It's completely simple, natural, and effortless. Anyone who can think can meditate. And I mean, even a child of 10 years old can learn the transcendental meditation technique. They just meditate for 10 minutes. So the thing is that most meditations do involve effort. They involve some degree of concentration, like focusing, holding the mind on a particular object or a particular idea, or contemplation. That means going from one idea to another, even if it's very uplifting ideas. It's moving from one idea to another. This is contemplation. And both of them are really keeping the mind on the surface active level, whereas transcendental meditation is allowing the mind to dive to the very depth of awareness. So with the transcendental meditation technique, there's no effort involved. We just take the correct angle and the mind gravitates toward that state of pure unbounded awareness. And why does this happen so effortlessly? Because we only use the natural tendency of the mind to go in the direction of more and more charm, more and more happiness, more and more fullness of life, more and more freedom. And we use a mantra. A mantra is the vehicle which turns the attention in the inward direction. Normally, the attention is always directed outward through the five senses. So we're habituated to always looking outside for fulfillment, for what we want, for everything is directing the senses outward. So we need a vehicle to actually turn the attention inward. And this is the mantra, and that comes from the Vedic tradition of knowledge, the most ancient tradition of knowledge in the world. So this is the difference between most other forms of meditation and transcendental meditation.
Okay, how has your life changed since practicing transcendental meditation? As your story is important because some others can also use your experience.
Well, basically, I'm much more fulfilled as a person. I've been able to accomplish my goals in life. As I told you, my desires are fulfilled much more effortlessly. I was able to go and live in India. When I wanted to move to India, I thought, well, I don't know if I'll get the visa. Usually, you can only get a 5-year visa when you have, you're either married to an Indian or you have some Indian ancestors or parents or some relatives in India. I had none of those things. But when I decided to move to India, I just decided to apply for the 5-year visa, which is very difficult to get. So I was living in south of England, and I just thought, okay, if I get the visa, it means I'm supposed to go. So I applied for the visa. I said I want to go to India to focus on my spiritual life and my work, and please give me the visa. And the visa was 5 years continuously, so you wouldn't have to leave India for 5 years, and it's very difficult to get. You can only get it from England. America only allows you 6 months, and then you have to leave every 6 months. So I did apply for the visa, and a few days later, the visa arrived in my mailbox. and I couldn't believe it. It was a 5-year visa, the X visa, which is so difficult to obtain. And a few days later, the High Commissioner the Indian consulate called me, and he said, "Oh, I wasn't supposed to give you this visa. This is only for Indians or someone who has a relative in India." And I said, "Well, it must be God's will that I was meant to have it." And he said, "Yes, I think it was. I wish you the very best, and I hope you enjoy your time in India." So that was it.
Amazing.
That's how I knew that I was supposed to go. And this happened
Yeah.
to me again. I got the 5-year visa twice, and it happened just like that.
This was amazing. And before I go to the next question, I want to ask you, what is your own view on it? Like, is this a coincidence, or what do you think as a
There are no there
spiritual
there
person?
there there are no coincidences in life. Everything happens by the will of God. Everything
Mm,
happens by the divine design. So there are absolutely no coincidence. What you as you sow, so shall you reap. If you're meant to do something, if nature intends for you to be in a certain place, you will be in that place, no matter what the outward environment you know thinks about it. Whatever the outward environment imagines can happen, something else can happen. And I've had so many incidences like this in my life that
mm,
I know for sure that God is directing my life, and I'm in the place that I'm meant to be in. Definitely, without a shadow of a
amazing.
doubt. I'm now applying for citizenship, and it's
Mm.
it's going well.
Wow, wow. Congratulations. I hope you get your citizenship. Yeah. So, what made you choose transcendental meditation?
As I told you, the
Mm,
scientific evidence made me choose it. There have been
mm,
more than 600 different scientific studies done in 30 different countries around the world, and they all document the incredible benefits of transcendental meditation in terms of psychological health, behavior, improved employee health, job performance, rehabilitation, education, improved postgraduate academic performance, increased self-actualization, optimization of brain functioning, holistic improvement in intellectual performance, immune system, reduction of blood pressure, reduction of cardiovascular disease. There's so many studies done on transcendental meditation. It's the most researched technique for self-development in the whole world.
mm. So the same benefits you have experienced yourself. Yes.
Yes,
Mm.
the same benefits.
Um, can it also help you lose bad habits and have better one?
Of course, it helps one lose bad habits because we don't actually ask anyone to change their lifestyle, their beliefs, or their habits when they start transcendental meditation. All we say is practice the technique regularly, 20 minutes twice a day. And actually, anything that's not life supporting, that isn't helpful to enhance one's health, begins to fall away. Like if one is smoking, one just doesn't want the cigarette after maybe a couple of months or something, or even sooner, because one feels that it's interrupting the purity of one's physiology, that it's actually creating toxins in the body. And as one becomes more in tune with natural law, one doesn't go in the direction of taking in things which can harm the body. This is something which is detrimental to health. So because one's brain is functioning more coherently, one doesn't move in the direction of things which are harmful to one's own health or the health of the environment.
Um, we know that some people can be skeptical about meditation, and even some of people don't even want to do it. What would you say to them now that you have been meditating for so long?
I'd say, please come along, even if you don't believe it'll help you, even if you're skeptical. We even teach skeptics to meditate, and someone can come along and learn the practice, and their skepticism will fall away. Maybe in the very first meditation, they'll realize how much happier they feel, how much calmer they feel, how much more inner peace they feel. So it doesn't depend on belief. It's not a religion. It has nothing to do with belief. You don't have to believe it'll work, even. But if you come and take the instruction from the qualified teacher, then you will experience the benefits, whether you believe in it or not. It doesn't depend on belief at all.
Exactly. Most of the people that I'm experiencing and I'm talking to them, they're just worrying about their beliefs if meditation is against their belief or there is something going on. Yeah, that's the issue. You are right. So, good recommendation. And how would you explain the purpose of human life from your perspective?
The purpose of human life is to expand one's awareness.
Mhm.
It's like when you're climbing up a mountain. From the plains, you can only see a certain amount of the beauty around you. As you ascend higher and higher on the mountain, the vista expands, and you
Mm.
begin to see much more than you could see just from the base of the mountain. So, in that sense, human awareness is meant to expand to unbounded awareness. We're meant to experience that totality of life because actually the individual is cosmic. Every religion says man is made in the image of God. That means we have that ability to experience the farthest reaches of the universe in terms of our own inner being. We can the awareness of the human mind is really unbelievable. We can experience so much that we haven't even imagined. They say, psychologists tell us that we only use 5 to 10% of our full mental potential. And that's why we're facing all the problems we are facing in the world today. Can you imagine someone trying to play a symphony with 2 fingers? They would never succeed. In the same sense, if we're only using 5 to 10% of our full mental potential, how can we really explore the full range of the universe and contribute maximum to the improvement of human life on this planet? We have to expand our awareness, and we have to broaden our awareness. We have to broaden our comprehension, and we have to begin to use the um, quieter, more orderly, more powerful levels of the mind. And just as in quantum physics, there are different levels of the universe. There's the surface level, the molecular level, the atomic level, the subatomic level, and the level of pure energy. And in the same way, the mind has levels like an ocean. The surface of the ocean has many waves. But when we dive to the depth of the ocean, it's silent and unbounded and still. And this is the mind is in the same way. The stillness of the depth of the mind is in that state of pure awareness, pure consciousness. When the mind is in a state of complete freedom from boundaries, this is the level on which the full potential of natural law is completely lively. And this is the level that we have to draw upon to begin to understand and experience and explore much more about the universe than we know today. Because what we really want to know are the deeper, more profound principles that govern life as a whole. And we can only really begin to be aware of this when consciousness expands to its full potential.
Mhm. So, what is your personal answer to this question that what is death actually?
What is what?
What is death? Death, life and
I
death.
can.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
you
I mean, what do you think? What is death in our life? Death. Death.
What is death?
Yeah.
You said, what is death?
Yeah. Because
Death
a
is
lot of spiritual people are having the same view on it. I want to see your view. We finally die. So, what is, according to spirituality, what is death actually?
Death is only a pause. It's like a sleep. It's like going to sleep and waking up.
Mm,
Death is a rest phase in between the continuation of life. So death is a concept. We think that when we die, it's the end of life, but when we die, it's like falling asleep and then waking up again. Life is a continuum, and the body, death is when the body can no longer function, when we've utilized as much as of this body as it can be utilized, and then for whatever reason, we've come to the end of the lifespan, but the consciousness never dies. The
mm,
consciousness is a continuum, and it cannot be burned, it cannot be wetted, it cannot be annihilated, it cannot perish. There's an imperishable level of every human being, and that's the level of consciousness. Consciousness cannot be destroyed. It continues, and life cannot be destroyed completely. It's just the outer garments of life fall away, but the consciousness continues, and the life stream continues, and it's picked up in the future, in a future life, and a future life, and a future life, until we reach that state of enlightenment. And then we've reached the full potential of what our body is really designed for. So
mhm.
that's my understanding.
So, are there higher states of consciousness to be reached?
There are
Like,
definitely higher states. There are definitely higher states of consciousness, and this was discovered and systematically explained by Mahashi Mahesh Yogi. Yes, this was explained by Mahashi Mahesh Yogi, and I explain it also in my book on Mahashi's Vedic Science, which is available on Amazon in the Kindle edition. And there are seven states of consciousness. We're aware of waking, dreaming, and sleeping. Those are the three states of consciousness everyone experiences: the waking state, the dreaming state, and the sleeping state. These states are qualitatively different because they have different physiological parameters. When one is sleeping, the body is functioning in one way. When one is dreaming, the brain waves are different than in sleeping. And when one is awake, there's also a different kind of functioning of the brain. So these states are qualitatively different physiologically: waking, dreaming, and sleeping. The fourth state of consciousness is transcendental consciousness, or pure consciousness. This is the state we experience effortlessly during the practice of transcendental meditation. The mind begins to settle down. When we start the practice, the mind begins to settle down. We experience quieter and quieter and quieter levels of the thinking process until we transcend thought completely, and we experience that state of unbounded awareness. Pure consciousness also has qualitatively different physiological parameters than the waking state of consciousness. There's greater orderliness and synchrony between the right and left hemisphere of the brain, and the whole brain functions in a different way when we're transcending and experiencing pure consciousness. So that's why Maharshi said this is a fourth state of consciousness. It's unlike waking, dreaming, or sleeping. It's a state of inner wakefulness. It's the mind, the body is fully rested, but the mind is fully awake inside. It's a state
mm,
of pure awareness, an inner wakefulness, or we can say restful alertness. So, this is the fourth state of consciousness. As we continue to meditate regularly, morning and evening, we're integrating that state of pure consciousness into our daily activity, so that even if we're involved in the most dynamic activity, we still have inside that calm collectedness of mind, that inner contentment, that inner fullness, that inner happiness, that inner sense of inner freedom. We have that with us all the time. So as we continue to meditate, gradually the experience of pure consciousness becomes habituated into the physiology, and we're able to carry that with us during the day without any effort, just spontaneously. We find we have that inner calmness, we have that silence at the depth of our mind, we have that calm collectedness. We're not like a football at the mercy of the environment. We have more inner stability and also more inner flexibility at the same time. So when that state is fully established and it never leaves us, we always have that inner silence with us, even in the midst of the most dynamic activity. This is actually a fifth state of consciousness. This is called cosmic consciousness. The awareness is fully expanded. Also, one other aspect of cosmic consciousness is that there's no more stress in the physiology. Cosmic consciousness can only be established permanently when all the stresses are released from the physiology. And when we transcend and experience pure consciousness, we're experiencing a very, very deep state of rest. And this rest releases deeply rooted stresses which have been accumulating in the nervous system over a long period of time. These are the stresses that are not able to be released during a night's sleep. These are the more deeply rooted stresses. And as we continue transcending and experiencing pure consciousness, the stresses are released more and more as time goes on. And that's why we're able to stabilize cosmic consciousness when there's no more stress left in the physiology. Okay? So that's the fifth state of consciousness. After cosmic consciousness is established and the body is fully purified, then the system begins to become refined and the perception becomes refined. And when we can call it, the next state is the sixth state of consciousness. We can call it the glorified state of cosmic consciousness or God consciousness. And in this state, we can have the vision of God. We can experience the full glory of the divine, which is immanent in the material universe. I mean, many saints have described the glorious celestial vision of the divine. Even when they were walking through nature, they saw everything glowing with celestial light. They saw, Thomas Traherne speaks about it in his poetry. Many of the saints have spoken about the celestial value, which is really the deepest level of the material universe. There's a level of light. The universe is made of energy and light and sound, and the light and the deepest values of the divine can be experienced directly in the sixth state of consciousness. So that's glorified cosmic consciousness or God consciousness. And the seventh state of consciousness is unity consciousness. This is the state when one experiences the whole universe in terms of oneself. So usually we feel some division between ourselves and the object of perception. There's a division between the subject and the object. But as we continue to meditate, that division becomes less and less. And in the state of God consciousness, we realize the inner fullness we're feeling is also experienced in experiencing the divine fullness of life. And in the seventh state of consciousness, the whole universe is experienced as the self, as just an expression of who we really are. There's just a unified wholeness of life. We experience unity with the farthest reaches of the universe. If you can comprehend that, but it's a very laudable state, and it's the highest state of human awareness when we experience the ultimate oneness, the unified wholeness of life itself. So these are the seven states of consciousness and the highest states, which have been systematically described by Mahashi Mahesh Yogi.
And I think it is my own belief that these states can only be experienced and maybe cannot be explained.
Okay.
Yeah, it is my belief.
Yes. The words can only reach a certain level. You can't really, the experience itself is far beyond the words.
Exactly. So can meditation enhance one's inner well-being? If so, how?
Well, exactly. That's what I've been speaking about. One's inner well-being is progressively enhanced as one continues to meditate. One feels more and more inner happiness and inner contentment. This is natural because one is experiencing the source of bliss within oneself. The state of pure consciousness has been described as Sat Chit Ananda, eternal consciousness of bliss. And when you experience that twice a day, that eternal consciousness of bliss, your well-being has to be enhanced. It happens very spontaneously.
How is mental and physical health relate?
Well, of course, there's a continuum between the mind and the body. They're not separated. As you know, when you're feeling very sleepy, then you can't act coherently in the world. So, and if you take any intoxicants, then your mind is affected, your body is affected, and your mind is also affected. So the mind and body are one continuum. They influence one another, and as we know, most diseases are psychosomatic. 98% of the diseases begin in the mind, and they're manifested in the body. So there's no separation between the mind and the body. They're one continuum, and one is constantly influencing the other. In fact, even each thought that one thinks it influences every cell in the body. So everything is influenced. The mind, the perception influences the physiology. What we listen to influences the physiology. What we see in the environment influences our physiology. It's a constant interaction.
Exactly. I have another question that, as a transcendental practitioner and teacher, you may know it better that what is consciousness here? So, if we have a mind and a body, then where is the consciousness?
Consciousness is an expression of the mind.
Mm,
Consciousness is the deepest level. In order to experience anything in life, we have to be conscious. We have to be awake. We have to be aware. Consciousness
mm,
is the instrument through which we experience life. And consciousness is projected through the mind. And the
mm.
deepest level of consciousness is pure consciousness, which is transcendental, and it's beyond the field of time and space. So this is my understanding of consciousness.
Thank you so much. And now tell us a little about your books, those two books, just a little more that what they're talking about.
Okay, well, my first book was this book, The Contribution of Mahashi's Vedic Science to Complete Fulfillment in Life. And in this book, I tried to give a clear understanding of Mahashi's Vedic science. Mahashi unfolded, the Veda means knowledge, and Mahashi's Vedic science is the complete understanding and revival of the ancient Vedic tradition of knowledge, which is more than 5,000 years old. Much of this tradition had been lost, and much of the benefits of the tradition had also been lost. But Mahashi came to the West in the 1950s, and he began to travel all over the world, and he saw that people could really benefit from having the experience of pure consciousness, but they also needed the knowledge of what they were experiencing and what were the fundamentals of the universe, which could enhance people's awareness and comprehension of life. So in this book, there are 16 chapters. The first one is an introduction to Mahashi's Vedic science. Second chapter, the self-referral state of consciousness, or the description of pure consciousness. Chapter 3, higher states of consciousness. Chapter 4, the TM City program, SIDHI, the advanced program, which one learns after learning Transcendental Meditation. The 20 approaches of Mahashi Ayurveda. And then I go into the mechanics of creation, the interacting dynamics of consciousness, Vedic cognition, natural law and national law, Mahashi's Vedic science-based education, Vedic civilization. So these are some of the different chapters in that book. Right now, this book can be ordered from my website if people want to order the paperback copy, but the Kindle copy is available on Amazon. The Kindle is available on Amazon.
Mhm.
My next book is, as I mentioned, it's called Pilgrimage on the Path of Love. And it's basically the story of a woman's travel in India and the experiences and the awakening that she has there. And I wrote this book from a very deep level of my inner being, and it describes my deep love of India and the different experiences one can have here and the knowledge that unfolds as one travels into the Himalayas. So this is a very colorful book, and it's available on Amazon and in Barnes and Noble. And you can read the reviews of the book on my website, barbaraannbriggs.com. I also have the Living Wisdom YouTube channel, in which I've shared more than 100 videos, and my podcast, Essence of Life, on Spotify and all the podcast apps.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for answering a lot of questions today. Can you please tell us, is there any other place rather than your website and YouTube that you can tell to the audience that they will find you and your work? Or you can repeat your website again, please.
Yes, my website is barbaraannbriggs.com. barbaraannbriggs.com is my website. And my YouTube channel is Living Wisdom Barbara Briggs. And there are more than 100 videos on my YouTube channel, and you're most welcome to subscribe. And my podcast is Essence of Life, and it's on all the podcast apps, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple. It's on all the podcast apps, Essence of Life. And I'm more than happy to be a guest on any podcast, as I love sharing this wisdom of Mahesh Yogi and sharing the wisdom about transcendental meditation. It's a great pleasure for me to speak to you, and it's a great joy to share anything that I know to enhance life as a whole.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much for joining us today on GNR podcast. It was really illuminating to have Barbara share their expertise and insight with us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. Stay tuned for more engaging conversations. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new ideas.